All right, everybody. Thank you once again for downloading this week's episode. And if you forgot or you have been asleep for a while, I'm not sure, you are listening to the Top 5 Podcast. And I'm Chris McPeak. And again, as usual, as per part of the course, as the most beautiful thing in my life, my youngest sister joins us again as my permanent co-host, which is not to say that other co-hosts will not be back, but Annie is here always, and there would be no show without her. So Annie, hello. Welcome back.
Thank you.
And how are you on this fine January weekend?
I'm doing quite well. Yes.
It's always good to see your face and talk pop culture with you, if you don't mind my saying so.
Yes, absolutely. I look forward to this all the time.
It makes me want to what's a day that you can always take off of work and I can always take off of work so we can just do this all day. And maybe one day we'll figure that out. But if not, I yearn, my belly burns for the moments when I get to do the Top 5 Podcast with Annie Pruitt. And you have come up with a delightful concept of a series. So I'm just going to yield the mic to you to tell us what we're going to do.
Yeah, so we're going to do a series. We're going to do a career series. So different movies about characters that are each share a career. So we're going to start today with our favorite high school teachers. Or teacher characters.
Teacher characters, yes.
Yes.
Okay, so we're calling it the career series, not the professional series.
Or the professional series, either one, professional.
Yeah, I'm fine either way. We'll flip a coin and then we'll count how many times we flip the coin. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, should I go first or do you want to go first?
You to go first.
Okay, so I went on a deep dive here because I didn't necessarily want to pick what were seemingly the most obvious movies about teachers. And I've never seen To Sir with Love, so I didn't want to watch it in order to do this show. But I am going to start with a documentary from 2010 that's called Waiting for Superman. And this is actually not an uplifting film. It is actually a pretty dark look at the state of the education system in the United States of America. And, I'm going to embrace that in the sense of my own frustration. Being an educator and having worked in higher education my whole life, going to see this movie and see what has become of things, in certain high schools, not every high school. If, we're looking at our system on the aggregate, I know that there are still dozens of really great schools that are part of the public school system where, there aren't issues and there aren't problems. But I thought this movie was super important for the time because with all of the attention that gets put on this notion of test scores and learning skills and whatnot, I have my own biases on, are we teaching our kids the right things? Because then some of them come to college and they don't have the basics. And in the state of California, we've now gotten rid of remedial courses on the college level. So that's been a really interesting thing to be a part of. But nonetheless, I think if you're a parent who's about to send your kids into the school system, watching this movie would be very eye-opening for you. And if you're a teacher, I think watching this movie you need to be reminded why you're called to this profession, because I think teaching education is a calling, regardless of the way that you're looking at it. And then the folks like that I went to college with, the Angel Flight people who got teaching degrees because they were really more interested in getting their MRS degrees. It's, it's not just the field that you go into when you want to bide your time before you get a spouse. And so that's that story. My number 5 is Waiting for Superman from 2010.
Okay. All right. I'm totally different direction on mine. So I'm going to go with Miss Honey from the Roald Dahl's Matilda the Musical, played by Donna Lynch. So
wait, quick point of clarification. Are you actually specifically highlighting the teacher from the movie?
Yes.
Okay, I will do the
Yeah.
same moving forward.
Because I mean, yes.
Your number 5 is a movie called Matilda.
Matilda the musical.
Okay.
Yes. But the original Matilda, it's based on the book by Roald Dahl.
Yes.
They did a movie with Danny DeVito and Cutie Pie, but it wasn't a musical many years ago.
Yeah. What is that girl's name? I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, and then they made they did a Broadway musical about it, and then they finally put it on film, Netflix. And I have watched this movie like 7 times.
Oh, wow.
That goes on my playlist now. So Miss Honey is, this delicate, grade school teacher, and recognizes the brilliance of Matilda. And she's also timid to this very, very aggressive and, mean school headmistress. So is the grade school teacher that, she's gentle and she's sweet and she's kind and she cares about her children, that she's teaching, and she wants to protect them and foster, creative thought. And she's a beautiful character. And I'm not going to spoil it because I really want you to see it. I'm not going to tell you anything else. And I don't know if you've ever read the book or know the story at all. So
yeah, I know diddly poo about Matilda, other than the cute girl that was in the
Doubtfire,
original movie. Yeah. What the fuck is her name? That's going to drive me crazy now.
Yeah. So that's going to be my number 5, Miss Honey. So
okay.
It's kind of a movie it's a movie about a teacher of Matilda. It's about Matilda, but Miss Honey is a central character.
Got it. Okay, so then my number 4 is, again, another movie that's kind of, I think, off the radar for a lot of folks. It's a much older movie. It's from 1961. The film is called The Children's Hour, and it's directed by William Wyler, based on a play by Lillian Hellman, and it stars Audrey Hepburn and Shirley MacLaine, and they play Martha Doby and Karen Wright. So they were college classmates, and they open a private school for girls that they, market to the society people and the rich and wealthy. It's a small group. They live in the property. They have their classes on the property. And the Audrey Hepburn character is engaged to be married to the nephew of one of the women who helps fund the school. So anyway, what happens in this scenario is they have an unruly kid who is the granddaughter of, she's cousins with the James Garner character, and she's spoiled, she's unruly, she's bossy, she gets punished a lot, she tells lies, and Audrey Hepburn happens to discipline her very specifically one day, and the little girl comes up with this rumor that the two women are lesbians and having an affair, and that just starts the snowball effect going, and they wind up having to, every parent pulls their kid out of the schools, and now they're thinking about how are they going to fix this mess, so to speak. So I pulled it into this series because I wanted to, I guess, maybe tell the standpoint of how hard it is to teach and to try to be that person for everybody. And, when you have unruly kids, they can make things personal. So people who decide to teach and put themselves out there, it's not just standing in front of a classroom and reading a lecture or a lesson. It's, being who you need to be for each individual kid and knowing how to meet them where they are with their skills and their talents, and also how to discipline them when they're messed up. But in this particular case, you had a really spoiled kid that made some really bad decisions that impacted the future of the school, but it has somewhat of a happy ending. And I actually just happened to stumble on this, I can't even remember, on Amazon Prime, thinking like, oh, I watched this a really long time ago when I was on a big old Audrey Hepburn kick. I was watching all of Audrey's movies, and I happened to watch this and I'd forgotten about it. So the private school, the sort of the niche school, the super wealthy kids coming to a private school like this. And I don't know, it was interesting to rewatch it and see the point of view of teaching from this standpoint. So yeah, I wanted to put it on my list because I thought the The portrayal of Miss Dobie and Miss Wright from Shirley MacLaine and Audrey Hepburn was very powerful and special, I guess. Yeah.
I
That's my
love it.
number 4, The Children's Hour of 1967 or 1961.
Wow, that was powerful. Okay. I'm going to go in a totally different direction. I'm going to go with Dewey Finn, School of Rock.
I knew you would.
Yes, you know you have to. Of course, he's not actually a teacher. He just pretends to be. So he takes on the Feebly, his actual roommate, takes this job as a substitute teacher at a very, very prestigious school, and comes to find out that these kids are actually like all musical geniuses. And creates a rock band, but in the process actually discovers that he really, really likes teaching these kids a little bit more, maybe not English or what he's supposed to be teaching, but right. Finds out that he enjoys teaching music, and he actually becomes a music teacher in the end, in a way, with the School of Rock, his own little side hustle, I guess, or side business, whatever.
Yeah.
But Dewey is adorable, and between the way Jack Black portrays this character in the movie as the substitute teacher, he really gets through to these kids, and they get through to him in the way. And then, of course, there's the Broadway musical School of Rock. I had to bring that up too. The music from that it makes it even better. Some of the songs from the Broadway show are just phenomenal and really get into the kids' lives more than the movie does. Yeah. So cool. That's my number 4, the teacher being Dewey Finn / Mr. Schneebly, and the movie being School of Rock.
I love that movie, and I thought about putting that on my list, but I was pretty darn sure that it was going to be on your list. And I echo everything that you just said about that movie. And I will also say, I don't think anybody else could have played that but Jack Black. It's the perfect thing for him to put his fingers in, because Jack Black in his own, he's a musician on his own right, and a darn good one. Tenacious D aside, all his weird little witty, funny things that he's trying to compliment a kid, but it sounds like he's insulting them and he doesn't get it. And he has to talk his way around. And of course, the way he deals with Joan Cusack and the Stevie Nicks scene is just, is fantastic. So I love that movie. I need to give that another few watches because it's just adorable. Yay. Okay. Well, now I am turning the corner, and we're going to be a little bit more uplifting for the rest of my list. I'm going to go with Freddie Shoop from 1987 Summer School. And I will say, for those of you who do not know Annie and me, this is one of those movies that was kind of part of our adolescent upbringing, and we've watched it to death. I'm pretty sure you could turn down the volume and we could, between the two of us and our other sister, we could probably fill in all the dialogue. It is a super goofy, easily quotable, funny movie. If you haven't seen it, Freddie Shoop he's the gym teacher, right? He's the PE guy. And he gets pulled in very last minute to teach summer school because the original summer school teacher got a scratcher and won the lottery and bugs out. And Shoop needs the vice principal's recommendation for tenure. So he gets stuck with these high school rejects that actually wind up being really super great kids, just that all have their own issues and challenges, and they need to pass this test so that they can persist through the beef, or through the system. And Kirstie Alley plays the other teacher teaching summer school who winds up helping Mr. Shoop figure his way out through the thing. It's funny and silly and also endearing, because in the end, not every student passes, but the principal is able to show that there was overall improvement in everybody, and that, Mr. Shoop, played by the very handsome, super hot Mark Harmon, and gets his tenure because, he did a great job reaching these kids, connecting with them, and, kind of making them love themselves so that they could do the work that they need to do to pass. And it's hilarious. And this is I could watch this thing over and over again. And it is a movie where you can have a conversation in movie lines from summer school.
I love this film.
I love this film.
No,
Two
no.
enthusiastic thumbs up.
Well, okay, so I'm going to change my order. I knew that this had to be on your list too. So that was actually my number 2. So I'm going to talk now because literally about an hour ago, the kids and I just finished watching it.
Oh, you're kidding.
No, so I'm like, so all of the movie lines are like fresh in my head. So yeah, Kirstie Alley being very, very hot as Robin Bishop. She's adorable in this. And there's so many. So now watching it with the kids, like the pregnant girl, that's the girl from the Saw movies.
Yes, yes. And also she was in some TV show with Ted Danson where he's a doctor and she's like the receptionist or something.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
So Mark Harmon is adorable. You know, he bribes them basically just to get them to try to study. And then finally, you know, gets them to say, hey, look, you know, I've wrecked my car. You set my couch on fire. You killed my goldfish. I just want, you know, what's it going to take for a little extra effort?
Yeah.
Dean Cameron playing Chainsaw. And then the dude, I'm Chainsaw, I'm Dave. Those two horror movie fanatics.
Yes.
Make the movie that much better. So yeah, that was on my list too, because when it comes to being a teacher, you know, he doesn't consider himself a teacher. He just thinks of himself, I'm just a gym teacher and I hand out basketballs and check for jock straps. But he actually figures out that he finds a way to get through to the kids. And that's what you want, the teacher that cares enough to get through to you.
Yeah.
And he can relate to them. So I'm with you on that one. So summer school on my list. It's actually my number 2.
Okay.
There you go.
So now we're going to go to my number 2, right?
Yes.
Okay. So you're going to talk about your number 3.
Yes.
Okay, got it. I'm with it now. I'm here. Okay. So I had to think about this one, and I only saw this movie one time, so I had to go back and refresh my memory. I'm going to go with Larry Crown from 2011. And this is I think Tom Hanks co-wrote this, and it's based on his own experience at community college. I think he went to College of the Desert or Chabot. I don't remember, but he is a product of community college education. And I do happen to work at a community college. So thinking about this movie made me really, made me smile. He is laid off from his retail job that he'd been in for his whole life, and he doesn't know how to do anything else. So he decides he's going to go back to school. And he takes, I think it's an economics class with Julia Roberts, who in her own way has come up with, she's kind of over it as a teacher. She has no inspiration. And I think she's also struggling in her marriage. But typical to summer school, this particular class is filled with some pretty interesting kids, one of whom is Rami Malek. I think this is the first movie I saw Rami Malek in, and, fell for him like crazy. But I love this movie because it is about starting over. It's about how a student can inspire a teacher and a teacher can inspire a student. And so I don't really know if I'm highlighting Larry Crown as the teacher or Julia Roberts as the teacher in this example. And it does bring to light that you're never too old to learn. And you're also never too old to teach or to be a part of somebody else's learning. And just the fact that this takes place at a community college and really gives some credence to, there are just some fantastic people working in the junior college, community college system. It's a system I'm very proud to be a part of. And now I am going to, of course, have to go back and watch Larry Crown again. But this just kind of came to mind. And when I talk about my number 1 movie, you'll know why. So yeah. Larry Crown, 2011 with Tom Hanks and Julia Roberts. And I don't even remember any characters' names other than Larry Crown. Ridiculous.
I haven't seen that in a really long time. So now I need to revisit that. So
yeah, I just saw it that one time in the movie theater and remember thinking like, oh my gosh, this is so fun and cute.
Awesome. Okay. So my number 3 movie, which is now at the number 2, I guess, whatever, is going to be Mean Joe Clark from Lean on Me.
Oh yeah.
Movie, you see him initially as a teacher, so that's why I'm using this one as my movie of choice, my high school teacher or my teacher movie of choice. But you see a whole host of teachers.
Yeah.
just doing the greatest work that they possibly can to turn the school around, starting with Joe Clark, who is just trying to get these kids, trying to get this high school turned around and get these kids to pass their minimum standards test.
Mhm.
It's based on the true story. It's a beautiful story. Morgan Freeman, this should have been an Academy Award. I'm just saying, it's an Academy Award performance.
Agreed.
He is, and then all the teachers, that the acting is amazing. I don't know what else to say. Michael Beach as Mr. Darnell, he's fantastic, and he's like one of the first people to stand up to Mean Joe Clark. But I don't know. I saw this in the theater twice. I loved it so much. It inspired me so much to, I don't know, just to pay attention. And like it's in a way a social justice film, but more it's just about how schools can go to hell if people don't care. And
yeah.
somebody in that turns it around, and they make something of it, and I don't know what else to say. That's my next movie about a high school teacher
I
that changes.
love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I love, there's a little kid who winds up, I think, in that movie, The Great Debaters. He's kind of chunky. I remember he's like the heart of that movie. And is that a Chicago school or an LA school? I don't remember.
Oh, New Jersey.
New Jersey. Yeah. So, okay. So now it's honorable mention time, right?
Yes.
I have a ton of things kind of kicking around in my brain, but I think when it comes to movies about teachers, you've got the clump of films that is like the depressed area high school, and the teacher with the heart of gold who comes in and changes everybody's lives, and it's sunshine and rainbows at the end. You could like the Freedom Writers and the Dangerous Minds. I've not seen Freedom Writers, but I have seen Dangerous Minds, and I love Michelle Pfeiffer as the former Marine who comes in and does the Dylan contest, and the students in that movie are fantastic. And then you've got the Dead Poets Societies of the world, the private school, and the liberal arts education thing. And so even as I'm thinking about, I would put Robin Williams' character on my list, but we've talked about Dead Poets Society before. So I'm gonna go with, I think it's called The Emperor's Club, with Kevin Kline. Another movie that I saw in the theater a long time ago, and there's echoes of remembrance in it, and something that I needed to watch again. But he plays a teacher at a prep school for high school rich kids, and Emil Hirsch is his problem student who winds up being just a terrible, awful cheater. But then the movie goes into the present day, and there's a reunion of sorts, and Emil Hirsch's character, I think, is going to run for office or something. And so there's the attachment to the student who's brilliant, but whose energy goes in the wrong direction. And this movie kind of is a little bit sad because some of the things that happen with Kevin Kline and this one student, they try to best each other, and it goes back and forth a little bit. So I'll leave it at that, but it's worth watching, and Kevin Kline is great. So that's The Emperor's Club, I think is what it's called.
Okay. I'll have to check that out. I haven't seen that. Okay, my honorable mention, the movie isn't about him. This was actually in my list of my favorite movies that take place during the high school years, but it's Mr. Griffith in Easy A. So he is a teacher, and what's great about him and as this high school teacher is he knows his students, and he sees what's going on, and he also knows what's the character, what Olive Pendergrass, what's going on with her. They're studying the book, The Scarlet Letter, and he sees this, what's happening with her in terms of like how the social dynamics of the school shift when her reputation changes based on, all of these essential lies that she perpetuates in addition, because she, lies about having sex with boys to boost their reputation, and then walking around school wearing the Scarlet Letter. But Thomas Hayden Church, is at you have a lot of empathy for him because his life is a wreck and he doesn't even know it. And all the time, he still just stays focused on the education and trying to keep these kids. So I love his character. I love him in that movie. And I love what he's trying to do as a teacher, trying to relate to the students, but also not sacrificing his own integrity in the process.
That is beautiful. And, I had not seen that movie until you showed it to me. And I'm so glad we watched it because it was a whole other new way to look at Ms. Emma Stone, who I'm now totally enamored with.
I love
in, 1,000 different ways. But that movie was laugh out loud funny and endearing as well. So yeah, good pick, Annie. Love it. Okay, so now we're at number 1, right?
Yeah.
Number 1? Okay, I'm going with the All You Need Is Ganas, Jaime Escalante from 1988's Stand and Deliver. And this movie in particular holds a lot of weight of love with me because Jaime Escalante is an alum of the institution where I work. And we had a whole curated, what do you want to call it? I don't want to call it art, but like a museum space dedicated to him in celebration of some anniversary. I can't remember what it was, but he was educated out of the country and came to America and taught computers for a while, and then got a job at James Garfield High School where he was supposed to teach computers, but wound up teaching basic algebra, and noticed that these kids in his class were a little bit beyond the basic math thing. So as he's learning about his students and figuring them out, his school they're going to lose their accreditation because they're not able to get the students to, again, pass these specific tests. And he decides that he's going to teach calculus at that school, which has not ever been done before. And these kids from his class get together and work 2 class periods a day. They stay until 5:00. They come Saturdays because they're going to take the AP calculus exam. And you've got students in this movie who are in gangs. Lou Diamond Phillips is one of those students. And this is one of his, I don't know if this was before La Bamba or after, but a very early movie for him. And he's cute when he's not being kind of awful. And then you have a girl and her boyfriend who are in the class together. They both have, big family issues. Both parents work. She has to take care of the younger kids. And then her boyfriend, his uncle wants to give him a job at a garage so he can learn a trade. And he doesn't want to give up the calculus. So anyway, long story short, because I could talk about this forever, Escalante's teaching methods were unique because he would show them calculus in a way that mirrored a tic-tac-toe board, and here's how you solve the problem. And he would write word problems on the board, which kind of gave me some PTSD because I started thinking about Mr. Hill and advanced math in Waldron High School, and the man would make me stand at the board to work a problem I couldn't work. But he called these the Weary Willy problems, and these are when you have a word problem that needs a calculus or an algebra formula to solve it. Juan has 5 girlfriends and Jose has 1 less girlfriend than Juan. So, how many gigolos does it take to do this? It's really quite funny. But they take the AP. Oh, I love you. Thank you. They take the AP. Are you on the road now?
Yep.
Okay. Love you. Bye.
Oh, you froze.
Back? Am I here?
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was strange because you didn't freeze. So they take the AP calculus test, they pass, but then the ETS people come in and they're like, you guys all passed, but you all got the same questions wrong, so we think you cheated. And that causes some controversy, but they take the test again and they do pass and it's all good. And, it's AP calculus. So it is very inspirational. And Edward James Olmos was nominated for the Oscar for playing Jaime Escalante. And he really embodies this character. And you think like, that is the teacher I wanted to have to teach me math. Maybe if I'd had Mr. Escalante, who they refer to as chemo, and I can't remember exactly why they would do that. I might have liked math a little bit more too. I could see these kids wanting to be in this class, even though he worked them to death, and they were literally doing calculus 4 hours a day and on the weekends. And it's just, yeah, it's a really beautiful story. And he, should go down in history as one of the greatest teachers of mathematics in, modern day, because he taught in the 70s and the 80s. And all you need to do math is ganas, he would say, which means desire. And I don't know, it's a really special film. And I love that he's an alum of where I work. Just makes me happy all over.
I love it. So I'm actually going to change something right now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think we also agreed that Mr. John Keating from Dead Poets Society is the all-time greatest, but we have talked about him before. He was like in my column, and I was considering making him number one, but I think that's kind of an obvious one. So
let's give him the Lifetime Achievement Award for most kick-ass teacher character in movies. That I'm willing to live with.
Yeah. So I think my sequence just got completely all messed up, but that's okay. I got to go with Mr. Hand in Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
That is great.
Yeah, because he is straightforward and funny, and the dynamics between him and Jeff Spicoli that's what makes that movie great, not Phoebe Cates in her red bikini. So yeah, I'm gonna go Mr. Hand instead.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay, so I got
played by Joe Dobish in administration.
Yeah.
What the hell is his name? Forget. You're like only thinking in pop culture when characters or actors are only characters when you're talking about them in other movies. Right. Because I just watched The Apartment again for New Year's Eve. Yes. What I love about Mr. Hand is seemingly you would think he's gone to see Jeff Spicoli as payback for all of the time that Jeff Spicoli has stolen, quote unquote, from his class. But he goes to see Jeff Spicoli because he wants to make sure Jeff will pass and graduate. And it's, unconventional method of teaching for that a teacher would do who really does care for the student and doesn't want to see them be held back or fail or, appear in his class again the following year. So I think that, yeah, I love that idea. And I love that notion of Mr. Hand, who's scary and hard, but winds up being, an entertaining professor or teacher.
Yeah. And Ray Walston. Yeah.
Ray Walston. Yes.
All right. So I'll give you my news sequence. You want me to recap first?
Yeah, let's do it.
My honorable mention was Thomas Hayden Church as Mr. Griffith and Easy A. So, and then number 5 will be Mr. Hand. Number 4, Miss Honey from Matilda the Musical.
Okay.
Number Dewey Finn, aka Mr. Schneebly from School of Rock, and then Mean Joe Clark, Lean on Me, number 2, and then number 1 will be Freddie Shoop from Summer School.
So my honorable mention is, I'd written it down. I think it's Arthur Humbert from The Emperor's Club. And then 5 to 1 is just the film Waiting for Superman, Miss Wright and Miss Doby from The Children's Hour, Freddie Shoop, Summer School, Julia Roberts, and Tom Hanks and Larry Crown. And then Jaime Escalante is portrayed by Edward James Olmos in 1988's Stand and Deliver, which I was looking at won all of the big independent Spirit awards that year, which makes me really happy.
Yes.
That even though that was Golden Globe. Okay. Never mind. Happy times. All right. So that is our number 1 professional career series episode is in the books. We are going to be looking at, we know doctors and lawyers.
Huh?
I think we were going to do prostitutes just for fun.
Yes.
And if you have a profession you would like to see us take on this show, you can email us at hello@thetop5podcast.com. And we'd love to take it on. We would love to hear what you think of our lists because, yeah, otherwise it's just, me and Annie talking about stuff, which we're going to do anyway because we love it. But we'd love to spark some debate out there and get some dialogue moving. So, yeah, y'all send us an email.
I love it.
We're desperate. No, just kidding. We're not desperate. Okay, so for Annie Pruitt, I'm Chris McPeak, and we will catch up with you on the next one.
Awesome.
Cool.